Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I will be talking about basic bonsai care. So bonsai might be a form of art, but in essence, they are still plants, so you need to take good care of them if you want them to stay beautiful. There's a lot of factors to cover, but in my opinion, it boils down to three base factors: light, water, and fertilizer. You might remember from your biology class that plants convert light energy into chemical energy to fuel its growth. Different species of plant require different level of light, but the chances are the tree you are training into a bonsai are probably large tree that naturally grow in full sunlight without any shading. So you have to understand that they will need a couple hours of full sunlight to grow properly. So I recommend you to grow them outside whenever possible. I understand that I live in a tropical country, so I could grow my bonsai outside for most of the time, but for those who live in a subtropical climate might want to keep your tropical plants inside on winter, but in general try to keep them outside whenever it's possible. Water is said to be the source of life, and I think that's mostly true because most living creature needs water to survive, be it human, animals, and plants. So watering your bonsai is very important, especially because we plant bonsai in such a small container. So our bonsai only have the volume of that pot as a water source. But you also have to understand that watering depends on a lot of factors. The media you are using, if you use a more porous media, then you might need to water more frequently, and then the weather, if it's cloudy and raining, you might not need to water, and then the state of your plant. If you see here, this bushy tree will definitely need more water than the other two. You have to keep that in mind so you don't overwater your plant and kill them, but also don't underwater them and make them stressed. As for watering technique, there's two techniques that I use. Number one is the old style watering from top. You can use your hose or watering can. I use my watering can here. It's just as simple as just watering from top. And secondly is the submerging. So you do it by submerging your bonsai pot into a container of water. I use both technique because number one, as you can see this bonsai, most of the pot are covered by rock. So there's only a small space on the side of the pot that allows water to penetrate into the pot. So it's better for me to water from bottom. And then some media also kind of repels water, so they don't transfer water inside the pot. And then when you use decorative moss, they also kind of repels water when water from top side, so you might want to water them from the bottom. Try to pick whichever technique suits you better. Fertilizing is very important to do because just like us human, plants also need food to grow strong and healthy, and plant gets their food from fertilizer. There's a couple of things you need to consider when you are fertilizing. Number one, plant needs several types of nutrients. You might heard about NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, but plant actually needs more than that. There's calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and then there's also the micronutrient, the trace element, iron, manganese, copper, and boron. In general, if you want your plant to grow strong and healthy, you have to provide them with all those nutrients. Number two, NPK ratio is also very important. If you see in your fertilizer package, you might see a 3 number. It might be 32 10 10 or 6 30 30. They stand for the ratio of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. In a 32 10 10 fertilizer, you will have 32% of nitrogen, 10% of phosphorus, and 10% of potassium. That fertilizer is generally considered as a vegetative phase fertilizer because it has high amount of nitrogen. On the other hand, the 6-30-30 fertilizer usually considered as the generative phase fertilizer because they contain more phosphorus and potassium. The ratio is very important. So for example, if you have a flowering bonsai and you gave the high nitrogen fertilizer, you might delay its flowering. On the other hand, if you provide your flowering bonsai with a low nitrogen and a high phosphorus, you might stimulate its flowering. So you have to understand that the NPK ratio is also very important. But in general, I tend to give my plant a balanced fertilizer. And then number 3, you also don't want to over fertilize your bonsai because you'll risk killing it. In short, fertilizer usually contain a high amount of various salts. So when you over fertilize, excess salt from your fertilizer will draw out water from your plant and burn your plant. If you accidentally over fertilize your plant, you have to leach out the excess salt by washing your plant with regular water, so you just water them excessively. Speaking of leaching out, the nutrient you provide your plant will leach out when you overwater them or after a big rain, so you have to time your fertilizing. As for myself, to overcome all those problems, I use fertilizing methods called fertigation, which is done by adding a small amount of fertilizer every time I water. So I could avoid over fertilizing my plants because I only gave a very small amount of fertilizer. And I also don't have to worry about leaching out because I provide them with nutrient every day. So even if the nutrient is lost today, I still gave them another dose tomorrow. So that's the basic bonsai care. When keeping a bonsai, you have to remember that bonsai it's a plant. You have to take good care of them if you want them to stay healthy and beautiful. If you have any question or suggestion, you can leave it in the comment. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.